Boker Tov to everybody. We're heading Parashat Tetzaveh and Zachor. We won't talk about Parashat Zachor this time, just about Big Day Kehuna, the oral Parasha excluding the Maftir, talking about the Bgadim. And we have the separation between Parashat Teruma, talking about the Klei HaMishkan, Aron, Menorah, Shulchan, Krashim, Yeriyot, etc. Whereas this parasha talks about the Gadim of Aharon HaKohen. We know we cannot neglect again the famous tour talking about the He'ader, the absence of Moshe Rabbeinu from this parasha. As we know from his birth at the Parashat Shemot till the end of the Torah, Moshe never disappears, and this parasha is his name is not mentioned at all, and we can say so the tool says that Moshe Rabbeinu asked after Chet HaEgel, next parasha, Mechei nina misifrecha asher katavta Hashem. But we can say that as you remember the encounter between the first encounter between Moshe and Aaron in Mount Sinai in Perek Daled, at the beginning of Parashat Shemot, HaKadosh Baruch Hu promises Moshe that go home, you'll be my servant, and v'ra'acha v'samach b'libo. When you come to Aaron, unlike a normal brother that might be jealous a little bit, I don't know if it's normal, but a brother might be jealous a little bit, so Aaron won't be jealous. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Alo ha'aron achicha halevi. So Rashi says there, points out that Moshe was supposed to be the Kohen, and Aharon was supposed to be the Levi, but because of the argument with HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided to give the Kehuna to Aharon HaKohen. And here I think we go to the peak, to the Si'im of Aharon HaKohen, okay, of all his kavod, all his bgadim, all his clothes, all the beauty of the Kohen. And I think that here Moshe can miss what he has lost. Okay, and therefore that's another explanation in the tool why Moshe's name is absent in this parasha, because this parasha is a peak of the Kohen Gadol, and Moshe Rabbeinu was supposed to be the Kohen Gadol, and since he lost it, so maybe therefore his name is not mentioned to tell him indirectly all this kavod, all this honor, all this beauty was for you, but you didn't want, or you were punished not to take it. So that's generally speaking. Now
I would think the other way, that if Moshe's name had been mentioned normally in the parsha, that it would indicate that he was not, that he gave it up not willingly. In other words, they're both like acting, because Moshe did act as Kohen Gadol. He did act for the 7 days or maybe even longer. He was performing as the Kohen Gadol. And Malim B'Kodesh Lo Maridin, he should still be called a Kohen Gadol.
So you say from the other side that he gave it Belev Shalem to his brother. That's very nice, and nice expression. You know that it's very that what you meant?
No, I meant he did not give it with a Belev Shalem, Moshe.
And that's why he is not mentioned?
And because it looks like a clash. If it was in there, it would look like it was
okay. So you say that he didn't give it Belev Shalem. I thought that you meant that he did give it Belev Shalem, and therefore he's not mentioned to clarify himself, to empty out.
He wanted his sons to be.
Right. Okay.
He did. We have some Pirushim that talk about that.
Okay, Mitsuyan. Yeah, what I want, I sometimes that there is a question in the Rishonim, why don't we make a bracha, let's say, on Kriyat Haggadah? Okay, so some of the Rishonim will say that we do have a bracha on Kriyat Haggadah. When you say, for instance, Gaal Yisrael at the end of the Haggadah, you do mean for saying Vabracha. And some of the Rishonim said that you don't at all. So we have the same both sides. You can say that Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to give it, and therefore he neglected himself, or he omitted his name from the parasha. And you can say that he didn't do it belev shalem, therefore he was, or as I explained, that Hakadosh Baruch Hu punished him, so therefore his name was taken indeliberately. Okay. Any case, in any way, we'll go to the psukim themselves. And after a few psukim of beginning with the nerot of the menorah, so ועשית בגדי קודש לאהרון אחיך לכבוד ולתפארת. Just look at the right column. The other one is just a translation, זה תרגום. ואתה תדבר אל כל חכמי לב אשר מלהיטיב רוח חוכמה ועשו את בגדי אהרון לקדשו לכהנוני. So we know that Aaron is a Kohen Gadol, and we know that Kohen Idiot has 4 clothes. The 4 clothes are the basic clothes of the Michnasayim and the Ktonet, pants and shirt, and Avnet to make the Chatzitza, to make the Hefsek, to make the distinction between the upper part and the lower part, and something on the hat, mitznef, mikbaot, okay? So we have 4, mikbat, avnet, ktonet, and michnasai. Whereas the Kohen Gadol has, instead of the mikbat, he has mitznefet. It's a different type of a hat. Okay, he has the michnasayim, ktonet, avnet, but he has meil, he has choshen, ephod, and tzitz. So let's go and see what's mentioned and what's not. ועשית בגדי קודש לאהרון אחיך לכבוד ולתפארת. And you'll tell the חכמי לב אשר מלהיטיב רוח חוכמה, and they'll do the clothes לקדשו לכהנוני. So we might think that in the following pasuk we'll find the 8 godim, okay? Or at least we'll find the extra 4 godim. But ואלה הבגדים אשר יעשו, חושן ואפוד ומעיל, וכתונת תשבץ, mitznefet ve'avnet. Okay, so 2 things are missing, and it's on the edges. Look, we have 6 clothes here. Okay, choshen, ephod, meil, ktonet, tashbetz, mitznefet ve'avnet. We miss the tzitz, we miss the michnasayim, and it's interesting because the pasuk starts from up to down. Okay, if you look at me, so the first thing that you see is a tzitz, which is missing. Now you see the choshen ve'ephod u'me'il, my body, uchtonet tashbetz, and now we have the mitznefet, which is a head, and avnet. Okay, but basically, except the mitznefet, we see that it comes from up to down. And if I would add tzitz, choshen, ephod u'me'il, ktonet tashbetz, mitznefet, avnet, and michnasayim. Okay, so we have the 2 bottom things are not bottom. 2 extreme things are missing. The tzitz on the one side and the michnasayim from the other side. It's interesting why mitznefet is not mentioned rishon, because it's the uppest one on the hair. Okay. So all the Rishonim discuss it, and some of them say regarding the Michnasayim that lo nizkeru, they are omitted, because their goal is very basic, lechasot besar erva, okay? And therefore we don't have to mention. It's clear that the Kohen Gadol doesn't come naked to Chas v'Shalom to work. So we have lechasot besar erva. Okay, but still we have to understand why the tzitz is missing. And let's see the michnasayim, because till now, I think all over the Tanakh, we don't find michnasayim at all. You know, that we see just kol minei, let's say that in Yetziat Mitzrayim, ובני ישראל, איך כתוב שם בפרשת בו? משערותם צרורות על שכמם. They have שמלות. וישאלו איש מאת רעהו ואישה מאת רעותה, כלי כסף וכלי זהב ושמלות. And we know that till now in Morocco or in other countries, even the boys, the men, go with simla, okay? And we know at the end of Parashat Yitro that the Torah says, לא תעלה במעלות על מזבחי, אשר לא תיראה ערוותך עליו, okay? Because basically, unlike men in our time, but if you just wear a simla, it's not sanua. And if you go on במעלות, so it's not sanua because on the bottom you might כאילו see the erva. Therefore, here there is a chidush, because by saying that the Kohen wear trousers or pants or how you call it, מכנסיים, so it's a modern levush, it's a modern clothes that is destined to make that לכסות בשר ערווה באמת, okay? And that's the first time about מכנסיים in the Torah, okay? And I read some, I don't remember where, a מאמר of one of academic article about Rashi in several places writes when he talks about women wearing trousers. So Rashi brings examples from the French culture where he dwelt, where he lived. And it wasn't till the medievals in Rashi's time that women started to wear מכנסיים there. They didn't wear מכנסיים like nowadays they do, but they used it for רכיבה, for riding on horses. Sometimes they needed a specific clothes of the מכנסיים. So Rashi talked about the women, I'm talking about the men. It's the first time that we find the basic מכנסיים, and it's very clear from this that the Kohen has צניעות, has an extra לכסות בשר ערווה, and that's one goal of the מכנסיים, okay? But we see, ואלה הבגדים אשר יעשו, ועשו בגדי קודש לאהרון אחיך ולבניו, לכהנוני. We don't see any רמז that מכנסיים are, that the clothes at all are for צניעות, okay? ועשו בגדי קודש לכהנולי, in order to make your role, to make your Kohen's duties, you have to wear these clothes, and they make you who you are. That's the impression that we get. We have a lot of לכבוד ולתפארת in the המשך. Let's do it. אוקיי. ולבני אהרון תעשית כותונות, ועשית להם מבנתים, ומגבעות תעשה להם לכבוד ולתפארת. So again, we have כותונות, we have מבנתים, we have מגבעות. 3 of the 4 clothes of the Kohen and the מכנסי ועד is omitted, okay? Because we talk about the לכבוד ולתפארת, the impression that the clothes make, and Kohen Hediot, 3 of the 4 are for impression, and just then ועשה להם separately from והלבשת אותם את אהרון אחיך ואת בניו איתו. So if you just read these 2 psukim, you might think that Aaron wears just kutonot of netim migbaot, but he doesn't wear on the bottom anything. Just then the Torah comes to say ועשה להם מכנסי ועד לכסות בשר ערווה ממותניים ואת ירכיים יהיו. Okay, so just here you have the basic need of צניעות, and not even on the contrary. I would write מעשה להם מכנסי ועד first, in order to say that that's a basic, okay? Let's say that you want to say a bracha. You know that there is a distinction in Masechet Brachot between saying bracha, shelibo, ro'eh et ha'erva. Sometimes you can say bracha without even a shirt, just if ליבו doesn't רואה את הערווה, if his heart doesn't see the ערווה, meaning that he has a basic thing of מכנסיים. So here you see that the מטרה of צניעות is very secondary in the Kohen, even the Kohen idiot. For the Kohen Gadol, the מכנסיים is not mentioned at all. And it's very clear that the Bigdei Kohen Gadol might be just for תפארת, לכהנו לי, impression, גדולה, קדושה, not for the basic need of נכסות בשר ערווה. And the Gemara says it in many places. The Gemara says, בזמן שבגדיהם עליהם, קדושתם עליהם. אין בגדיהם עליהם, אין קדושתם עליהם. So the Gemara sees the linkage between wearing the clothes and without them, there is no Kohen. The Kohen is not the personality. The Kohen is the personality with the dressing of the personality. Okay, so now we can understand why we don't have the מכנסיים, but why don't we have the tzitz? So it's interesting that whereas the מכנסיים is for tznius, the tzitz is the only explicit thing that the Kohen puts it on his metzach. When you see a tzanua person, you don't look at his body, but the only place where you look is his face. Okay, kala צנועה וחסודה, there is a big machloket, whereas it's permitted to watch the kala in her yom chatunata in order to be mechavev her on baala. But if you look at the face. So if you look at the face of Kohen Gadol, because he has tzniut, he has his basic מכנסיים, without even having the need to talk about it, so he has the tzitz, the explicit name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we usually hide, we never say it explicit. Here you see Kodesh LaHashem written on the metzach of the Kohen Gadol, and here you see the contrast between, from the one side, hiding the basic tzniut that the Kohen needs, which is not primary and not what the Torah stresses out, but the Torah doesn't want to stress out the hachtzana, the extravagant that a Kohen Gadol shows his power, shows his ability to mention the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu explicitly without it's written on his metzach. So even this the Torah hides, meaning to say that you have a balance, that the Kohen is in the middle. He has a lot of nice things, he has me'il, he has choshen ifon, but the Torah balances between his power from one side. So Torah doesn't talk about his basic needs of tzniut, but the Torah doesn't talk about his power to show off, to להשוויץ, to make a show with his power when mentioning the Kohen, the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We know that the clothes, the word beged in Hebrew, meaning lilbosh, okay, be good, and meaning betrayal, bgida. And if you learn the Gemara in Kiddushin plays on this linkage, and the Gemara says asher bagad or asher paras beged. Okay, the Gemara plays with the ambiguity of from one side the bgadim, the clothes, and from the other side the bgida, the betrayal. And why? Because the basic needs of covering ourselves comes from the Chet Adam HaRishon. Okay? ועשו להם עלי תאנה לכסות את עצמם, to cover themselves. When you dress, when you wear something, you wear a kisui. You wear a way in order to express your personality. That's why sometimes when somebody dresses the same thing like you mamash hate him, like he is a twin of you. He has taken your personality. He's wearing the same tie that you have just bought, so he's mamash taking your personality out of you. And the bgadim might say the way that I want myself to live, but the bgadim might say the bgida in my inner part, in my inner neshama, that I betray the role of myself and I just מתחפש, I wear a mask. And we find the same thing, as I said, we're nearing Purim. So I'll say something about the Megillah. We see there that Achashverosh has a lot, all the Megillah is full of Malbushim, okay? Chur, Zahav, Utchelet, and we talk about Mordechai, Mordechai יצא מלפני המלך בלבוש מלכות, תכלת וחור ועטרת זהב גדולה, ותכריך בוץ וארגמן, and we find all the time that Mordechai symbolizes the real role of the beged. When he has to mourn, when he has to be ovel, so he wears a sack, and he doesn't care that אין לבוא לפני המלך בלבוש שק. He wants to express what he is now, in the mood in which he is now, in his clothes. And that's why he dresses with levush sak. And when he's happy, when the Megillah comes to its peak, so Haman takes him, Mordechai יצא מפני המלך בלבוש מלכות, תכלת וכולי וכולי. For Mordechai, wearing a mask, wearing tachposet, symbolizes negativity, because it's bgida, it's a betrayal in his inner role. You have to symbolize what you are and not what you aren't. It's very clear that the other one, you usually think that Mordechai is one hero of the Megillah, and the other one is Haman. And we have Haman against Mordechai. Okay, he is a minister, he becomes the advisor of the king, and then Mordechai becomes the advisor of the king. But we might compare two other people, not Mordechai and Haman, but Mordechai and Achashverosh himself. And if we compare the king Achashverosh to Mordechai, you find that Achashverosh has all the time his malbush. He doesn't have a personality. He doesn't know what's the decisions that he takes. Even in Perek Chet, when Esther brought Mordechai to show the king Mahula, ki gida Esther Mahula, and then he gives him Beit Haman, the king doesn't care. He doesn't ask Mordechai what you sign with my chotemet. The only thing that Achashverosh has stable for all the Megillah is his chotemet. It's very clear that his chotemet makes the decisions, and for him, ככתב אשר נחתם בטבעת המלך אין להשיב, so being it Haman or being it Mordechai doesn't matter. For Achashverosh's power is symbolized by the chotemet, and his is mate. It's very clear that if you touch him with a mate, so he can decide לחיים או למוות, חס ושלום. Chas v'shalom, like Mengele, Imach Shmo, you remember that he with his bohen, he decided to the right or to the left, and the same thing happens in Perek He. Achashverosh, we don't feel the tension, but when Esther comes, it might be that she'll die, just because of the decision of the Mate. So the Mate gives the stability, lechaim or lemavet, his power as a king to decide who lives and who not. And that's another thing that he has. And he has the bgadim, the mask. So Achashverosh doesn't symbolize as a person unlike Mordechai. He doesn't have any real life, real identity, real personality that he knows what he's doing here. But he has just the external bgadim, the external mate chotam. It remembers us of Yehuda, who with Maaseh Tamar, that he gives her as a mashkon. What does he give her? Matcha, chotamcha, uftilecha. Three things, right? The same thing happens here with Achashverosh. The basic kelim, the basic clothes that he uses is his mate, is ptilecha, all the clothes that he has all over the Megillah, and the chotam, which is the decisions that he made. And we have, even though that they said that people like Achashverosh don't have a personality, the only things that we have with the begadim, with somebody that dealing just with the begadim, with external clothes, is the chipus, itchapsut. Because let's say that you ask your grandsons or kids or whatever, what do they dress to? So I'm asking my kids, and they're very boring. They take just the tachposot from last year, and but if you ask them, and let's say that you offer them, I'll buy you whatever you want from the chanut, just tell me what you want to be. So the journey and the decision what to adhere to, what figure from TV do I like, what politician do I want to be like. So the journey for looking for it is important, because that says that you, even if you are a very, you have a big void in your heart, you don't know who you are, you don't have an identity, but once you have a mask and you have to dress in a way and you think, who do I want to be similar to, you have a masa of chipus, a search. You look for what you want to be. Achashverosh, at the end of the Megillah, doesn't find anything, okay? But the look itself is very chashuv, and what we have as a maskana from the Megillat Esther is that tzaddikim are like Mordechai. They have a solid identity. They know exactly who they are. They don't have the bgadim. They don't care what the external world thinks of them, but they do what they believe in. But other people like Achashverosh, sometimes they don't have the inner clothes, and they just need the external clothes. But in the journey and in the search for finding a suitable clothes, they have to think about themselves, and the thinking about themselves is very important. But going back to the Kohen has to symbolize the inner part of himself, like Mordechai. Okay, it's very clear. The Kohen doesn't have the yicholet, the ability, and the need to search for his real identity. Okay, but the basic thing hinted from this psukim are, as we said, are the michnasayim and the tzitz. The Kohen, from one side, one dimension, shouldn't think of the tzniut. It has to be very basic. Doesn't have to be like a thing that I have to tell you. Ve'asita v'gdei kodesh. It's clear without mentioning it. You have to know that tzniut is not a part of of kavod v'tiferet. And from the other side, the Kohen should know his role. Should not take his role in order to show off with the tzitz. Okay. Let's go further. If you look at the ephod, which we have here, so we have ועשו את האפוד, זהב טהור, תכלת וארגמן תולעת שני, and we have two כתפות חוברות, okay? We have two, ולקחת את שתי אבני שוהם, ופיתחת עליהם שמות בני ישראל. So we have 6 names on this shoulder of the Kohen, 6 names of this shoulder of this Kohen, and here we attach to the ephod the Choshen HaMishpat with the 12 names of the tribes, as we see now, ושמת את שתי האבנים על כתפות האפוד אבני זיכרון, and then we have ועשית משבצות זהב, and ועשית חושן משפט מעשה חושן. So just I want to pay attention to this pasuk. You know that Bet HaMikdash is described in Parashat Vezot HaBracha, in this big speech of Moshe, as Uven Kteifav Shachen. Okay? And the Gemara says that if you look at the place of Har Moriah, is not the highest on the hills of Yerushalayim. If you look, there are, let's say, Har HaTzofim from the north side. You see that it's higher. And let's say the hills of Gilo, or I don't know, from the south side, you see they are higher. And in the middle, you have Har Moriah. So it's Ben Ktefav Shachen. And the Gemara says that Bet HaMikdash dwells in the middle between two tribes. We have Yehuda from one side and Binyamin from the other side. And we know that there was a Ke'ilu Machlokot, or partnership between Yehuda and Binyamin, because Yehuda wants his Bet HaMikdash to be in his share, Binyamin wants to be in his share, and they, as the Gemara says, that there was mamash a very subtle gvul between them. A part of Bet HaMikdash was in Binyamin, a part was in Yehuda. That's the explanation of the Gemara to Uven Ktefav Shachin. Okay, not the topographical being in the middle of the hills, but social explanation that Bet HaMikdash balances between Yehuda, the king, the leader, and Binyamin, the youngest, the nicest son, the Hamud, the gentle. Okay, so we have Yehuda is a leader and Binyamin is the youngest. We have two things in order to balance between them. So Bet HaMikdash is called Uven Ktefav Shachin. And thinking of the Kohen, of his Ktefayim, of his shoulders, we see Avner Ashoam from both sides. And who is in the middle of the Kohen? A Choshen. Okay? So we see that the Choshen symbolizes Ke'ilu Bet HaMikdash. Okay, the place of the 12 tribes is Ke'ilu in a micro, the place of Bet HaMikdash in the world, and that's very interesting because we see that who can see the 12 tribes? Everybody that watching the Kohen, what does it he see? He sees in front of him 12 Avanim symbolizing the 12 tribes. But the Avanim on the shoulders, nobody can see, because if you look at somebody and he has something on his shoulders, you don't really see what he has here, okay? If you don't look well, he comes from באותו גובה שלך, and you don't see what he has. Just if you take a camera from up and you look on him from up, then you see his ktefayim, what he has on the ktefayim. And I think that the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks on Am Yisrael is very interesting, because if you, like a human being, looks in the Kohen, you see just the 12 tribes. You have to give each one of the tribe his own identity, his own chashivas, and it teaches us not only about the tribes, it teaches us about the whole identity of each individual. That when you're a person, you have each one in front of you, you have to give him to the kavod of who he is, where he comes from, where he goes to you relate to him as an individual. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's the only one who sees Am Yisrael not just here, he sees here. He sees Am Yisrael turning into two groups. One group of 6 tribes here, one group into on the second tribe. And again, we see it when Am Yisrael enters in Yehoshua times, he enters Eretz Israel. So the first thing that he does, according to Chazal, was to go to Shechem, to Elon Moreh, and then you have Har Grizim and Har Eval. Am Yisrael is divided into 2 groups, according to Dvarim, Perek Kaf Zayin, and Am Yisrael is divided into 6 tribes from each side. One symbolizes the Yamin, one symbolizes the small, without, of course, a political linkage. And Am Yisrael is separated into 2 groups, meaning to say that when you come from Elohim's perspective, you don't just look like a human being on each tribe individually and on each person individually. But you have to understand that once you have a nation, you have the 2 groups. You have one thesis and one the antithesis. And once you have 2 groups of Am Yisrael, you'll always have to balance between them. We've spoken about Yehuda and Binyamin. You can talk about the 10 tribes and the 2 tribes of Mamlechet Yehuda and Mamlechet Israel, and it doesn't matter what, but basically saying you have from one side, you have each person has his own decisions, החלטות, and kavanot, and intentions. That's one thing. But generally speaking, Am Yisrael is divided into two groups, and it might say that one group would say one thing and the other group would say the other thing. That's not a human being way of look, because we don't look on the Am as two groups. We either look on the Am as one big Choshen Mishpat, including all the 12 tribes, or we look on each tribe individually. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu can make the separation and can look in Am Yisrael not only just as a klal, not only just as the prat of 12 tribes, but as two groups. And therefore, why he needs sometimes in several places in the Torah, he has a separation of two from one side to another. And as I said on Shabbat, it's not mentioned in this parasha, unlike Parashat Truma, that השמות here, מקבילות אישה אל רעותה. In Parashat Truma, we find that if you have two, all the time the Torah tries to say that they are twin, that together they make one big system, okay? But if you have tabaot from one side, if you have tabaot from the other side, so even if it's a copy, you put it in the same place from right and from left. No, the Torah says that the yeriot, the tabaot, has to make a big picture. But here we see that we don't make the big picture. The Torah says separately, put 6 here, put 6 there, and just HaKadosh Baruch Hu from above can see the nation like two big groups, and he knows that Am Yisrael is not only just Am Yisrael as a klal, is not only 12 tribes, but he has 6 and 6. He has two big groups, and we have to balance between them all the time. That's what is symbolized in as a avanim and the Choshen. So we have talked about now we finished with the Choshen and the Ephod. We've started with the Michnasayim and the Tzitz, and Bezrat Hashem we'll talk maybe on Shabbat about the other Bgadim. להתראות.
Very nice.
תודה.